Well, welcome back to session 2 of From This Day Forward. Michael Michelle Metcalf back with you again. I'm so excited to be with them, aren't you?
Yes.
And I'm excited to be with you.
Oh, thanks.
So we're getting ready to get into session 2, Fighting Fair. Last session, we actually talked about seeking God and the importance of seeking God, seeking your number 1, who is God, with your number 2, who is your spouse. And if you haven't already started praying together as a couple, I really want to encourage you to get started in that. As we learned, it's really, really important. So if you haven't started praying together already, you really need to get on that right away.
Yes, and this week we are going to move forward into Fighting Fair, which we are pros about, at least with the fighting part.
We've got a ton of research in this area, so
yes.
this is...
We could give Dr. Kim a run for his money.
Totally can. So, sweetie, what is one fight that you can remember us having in the early years?
The early years. Well, I remember just coming together as a young couple, and one of the things we fought about as we merged our lifestyles together was the house.
Oh, yeah.
And so whether socks go on the floor or in the drawer.
Why gotta be my socks?
I don't know. Why did they have to be your socks? But anyway, I remember one time with the dishes.
Oh,
Do you remember
yeah.
the dishes?
Well, here's the deal. Because I love to cook.
Yes.
I like to cook, and I'm pretty good at it, by the way.
Sure.
And what I would do is I would cook this big meal, but I didn't like actually cleaning and washing the dishes, so I'd cook this meal and I'd leave the dishes in the sink for her to do.
So I would come into the kitchen and there's all these pans with this stuck on food, and you have to scrub it and all of that. Eventually I got tired of it, so I just started stuffing them in the trash bag.
In the garbage.
Yes, and eventually we ran out of dishes.
Every single thing we owned, plates, spoons, forks, knives, pots and pans, we threw them in the garbage because I wasn't going to clean them.
Yes, and I wasn't going to clean them. So how we resolved it is we just threw them away. I mean, they weren't Pampered Chef or anything. They were cheap. But we just threw them in the trash. But since then, we've learned to be more sensible.
We've learned to be a lot more sensible. And if we're in this for the long haul, which obviously we are, we've learned that we've got to learn how to fight fair, and we can't really do things like that.
Right.
So here's the deal. Now that we've kind of bared our soul and put all of our garbage out there, literally, we want you to talk about it as well. So here's the question. Do you typically fight fair, or do you typically fight unfair?
Dirty.
So, talk it over. Okay, well, we hope you had some great discussion on the topic of fighting.
Hopefully you're still together.
Yeah, hopefully
one fight didn't lead to another.
Yeah, I hope no fights broke out talking about fighting. But anyway, hope some great discussion. And right now, we're going to get to hear from Pastor Craig on fighting fair.
All couples will fight, but here's what we need to understand. Healthy couples fight fair. Unhealthy couples fight dirty, below the belt, jabs, undercuts, accusations. Healthy couples fight for resolution. Unhealthy couples fight for victory. In fact, there's a fascinating study you can read about by a guy named Dr. John Gottman, who's kind of a marriage specialist. He studied couples who fight for 16 years, and he watched them and studied how they fight. And now he can watch a couple for only 5 minutes and determine within 91% accuracy whether this couple will make it or if they will divorce. Because he says it's all about how you fight. It's not if you fight, but it's how you fight. And as couples, we are going to seek God and we are going to fight fair. And our verse today I want to focus on is found in James chapter 1, verse 19 and 20. And Scripture says, everyone should be quick to do what? Say it aloud. Everyone should be quick to listen. Come on, everybody work with me. It's no fun without you. Everyone should be quick to listen. And what else? And slow to speak. And what else? And slow to become angry, for a man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. I want you to watch as we look at James 1:19 and break it down. How one verse inspired by God through His Holy Spirit can bring healing and teach us not to fight dirty, but instead to fight fair. Here's 3 rules to fight fair. First of all, we need to stop. We're in a fight. Things are escalating. We need to stop to listen carefully. Because so often we don't. James 1:19 is very clear. Everyone should be what? Say it aloud. Everyone should be quick to listen. But what are we often quick to do? We're quick to speak, aren't we? We're quick to argue back. We're quick to make a point. We're quick to throw a low blow in. We're quick to speak. And we need to be instead quick to listen. Here's a couple of things I learned in seminary when I took a class on counseling couples. And it was very, very helpful, very, very simple. And that is, in an argument, what we should do is we should repeat back to our spouse what our spouse just said. And what it does is it forces us to listen, and then it validates our spouse to know that he or she has actually been heard. And so what you're saying is this, and you repeat it back. And what that does is it keeps it focused on the issue at hand rather than escalating and we start fighting about how we're fighting rather than about fighting for resolution about the issue. The next step, and this is so huge, and men especially for you in a way to minister to your wife, even though you're upset, and even though you're angry, and even though she is kind of being, you know what you do is you stop and repeat back to her, and you can validate each other's feelings by saying, I understand why you would feel this way when I do whatever. I understand why you would feel this way. And you don't have to agree with the issue, but you can validate the feelings. So what you're saying is, when I did this, repeat back what was just said, it made you feel neglected or undervalued. And suddenly what you're doing is you're really keeping it on the issue rather than doing what we so often do is fighting about what we just said and letting the issue get buried somewhere in our inappropriate behavior. Stop to listen. What are you saying? I value what you're saying. I want to hear you and not just you hear me. Second thing Scripture teaches us is to guard our words faithfully. Guard them faithfully. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. Slow to speak. I love Proverbs 21:23. Scripture says, watch your tongue. And somebody say this aloud. Somebody, watch your tongue and keep your trap shut. Keep your big mouth shut, and you will stay out of trouble. Okay? That's a great verse. Not a great verse to quote to your spouse in the middle of a fight, but a great verse. Okay? Watch your mouth. Keep your mouth shut. When you're in a fight, do this. And I'm telling you, force yourself, when you're about to say something, ask yourself two questions. Ask yourself, should it be said? And ask yourself, should it be said now? Should it be said? If you're running late to the airport and your wife says, make sure the dishes are clean, and you're wondering, why would you want the dishes clean? We're late for the airport. Don't say, why do you want the dishes clean? Because a burglar might come in and see our dishes, for which she says, I don't care, just do the dishes. Then don't call her a psycho. Don't do that. Yes, your pastor did that. Only once, but learn from it. Should it be said? Don't, and if the answer is no, don't say it because you can't take back your words. The next question is, should it be said now? Because there are some things that need to be said, but not in the middle of a fight. There are new issues that need to be introduced to work through, but not in the middle of the fight. You stay focused on the issue at hand, and you're fighting fair to work toward resolution on that one issue. So what Amy and I do, and we've done this for 21 years, and it's truly one of the most practical and helpful tips I can give you, is we work on our marriage during non-conflict times. And this is a tool I learned in seminary that we've done for years and years. We call it marital checkup. And what I do is I say to her, we've got the kids to bed, we've got an hour to talk, things are good. And I ask her, and then she asks me, what are 3 things that I do that bless you? And some of you may say, but I can't think of 3 things that the old bag does. No, you think of 3 things. And what that does is is it leads to positive momentum in the conversation, and then it helps us to know what are things we actually do that's helpful. For instance, Amy's like, one of the most romantic things you do is give the kids baths and put them to bed. When you do that, that really excites me. I'm like, hey, scrub-a-dub-dub, 3 kids in a tub. Come on, get naked, kids, and throw them up in the bed. Because it helps me to know, and I don't always know. The second question is, what are 3 things I could do that would be even a bigger blessing? So we've already got positive momentum, and then we give permission in a safe and loving context to talk about those issues that could make the marriage better. Well, to be honest, when you do such and such, it makes me feel this way. Or when you don't do this, it makes me feel this way. And so we've got the momentum of already working together toward a good and blessing marriage, and we can bring up those issues that we really need to talk about. Should it be said, and should it be said now? Now, even if you follow these rules, you're still going to get in a fight, and let me give you some rules for the fight. If you're dating, hope to be dating, you're engaged, it's a great time to decide on some rules for your relationship. And before you get married, Amy and I, we made some rules, we memorized some verses, and we just agreed these were going to be some Groeschel family values. And here's some rules you could agree on. You can add to these or whatever, but here's a starting point. Never call names. Never call names, unless it's like your little pet love name for each other, like, okay, Pookie Boo, I'm sorry, or whatever, okay? Never raise your voice. You raise your voice, nothing good comes of it. Keep it, step back, count to 10, breathe in, sing a song, say a prayer, say 14 prayers, pray in tongues. I don't know, whatever you have to do, calm down, okay? Never get historical. Don't get historical. That's not a typo. Back in 1962, I remember when, don't go there. We're not playing scorecards. Don't get historical. Never say never or always. Never say never or always. This is one of the fastest way just to be offensive, because never and always is just rarely true. Instead, and I'll say it sometimes like, Amy, you never. Oh, well, most of the time you don't. And what we're doing is we're showing and communicating respect. Never say never always. Never threaten divorce. Don't do it. That's a low blow. That's uncalled for. Remember, we're a couple that never gives up. And so we are never going to resort to that kind of below-the-belt threat. There's nothing good from that. Never, ever threaten divorce. And finally, when you're in a fight, never quote your pastor. Don't ever do it. Never quote your pastor during a fight. Leave me out. Pastor Craig said, no, you got in it. You get out of it. Leave me out of it. I'm at home making pancakes, okay? So, all right. Excuse me. Stop to listen carefully. Guard your words faithfully. And then finally, if you're taking notes, write this down. We're going to learn to handle our anger righteously. Handle our anger righteously. This is so important because you will get angry, and we want to handle it being led by the Spirit of God. James 1:19 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and what else? Slow to become angry. Listen, there are some things you've just got to learn to let go, okay? If you want to have a great marriage, there are some things you just have to say, you know what? This isn't worth it. Amy, when she works with women all the time, she always says, listen, you married a man. Men will do men things. You got to let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Let some things go. Be slow to anger. I love Ephesians 4:26 and 27. In your anger, if you get angry, do not sin. A lot of people don't realize, but you can get angry, and being angry is not a sin. It's what you do with your anger. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. Now, let me stop right there and say, some of you, if you just get this one point and nothing else we talk about, this can be one of the most life-changing principles for your marriage. Don't let the sun go down when you're angry. Don't go to bed mad. Don't go to bed with unresolved issues. The Bible says, and do not give the devil a foothold. Here's what I want you to think about. Anytime you go to bed with an unresolved issue, what you just did is you gave the devil a foothold into your marriage. Anytime. And it's that dramatic. Anytime you didn't work it out, you didn't forgive, you didn't talk about it, you go to bed, and guess what happens the next day? You wake up, and the little problem is a little bigger. And I'm telling you, I know there are a lot of you right now going, oh, this is a stupid, you don't know my husband, you don't know, the person I'm married to. I mean, he's got the gift of being a jerk, and all that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, what you have today started one day, sometime years ago, when there was an issue that you didn't work through. And over years, it compounded and it became more complex. And what you did is you cracked open the door by not working something out. Amy and I have agreed we will never go to bed angry. We will work it out. Now, to be honest with you, there have been times we've gone 5 days without going to sleep. Okay? Some of you know what I'm talking about. I mean, you have to work through some hard things or forgive, but we are not going to go to bed angry. No unresolved issues. We're going to fight this thing out, and we're going to stay on it, because we are not going to let our spiritual enemy destroy what God has joined together.
Now that we've heard from Pastor Craig on fighting fair, we've learned some things to do and some things not to do, name calling.
So I shouldn't call you a turkey?
That's right. And so we are going to discuss some of the things in regards to fighting fair.
Yeah, I think, it's important to know what that looks like. For me, when I really think about what does fighting fair look like for me and between us, it's really when I don't get defensive. Because I have a tendency to, get really defensive about, what are you talking about? Well, I should have done this, but you should have done this. And, well, I did do thus and such, so and so. And so for me, I have to really practically think about, I need to listen and practice not being defensive. So that's fighting fair for me.
Yeah, and listening, guys, is not just hearing, but trying to understand and just show you care. So that's important to me. And then as a woman, I think not getting historical. Sometimes
hysterical? Not getting hysterical?
Both. And so one thing you can do is put a Post-it note about the issue you're talking about between you and just stay on topic.
Stay on topic.
Yes.
And understand that learning how to fight fair is like a progress. It's a process. You're going to continually get better at it and better at it, and you'll have plenty of opportunities to practice it. So here's the deal. After we've kind of bared our soul, we want you to talk it over. So recall one of the times that you had a huge fight. Recall one of your old fights and what it looks like, and now hopefully how your fighting has changed and maybe gotten a little more fair. So talk it over. All right, well, I'm sure you had some great discussion on the Talk It Over question, sharing one of your early fights, and then hopefully how the way you fight has changed over the years and hopefully gotten a little bit better as we discuss fighting fair.
Yes, and now we're joined by Dr. Kim Kimberling. And Dr. Kim, on behalf of all of the ladies, when it comes to fighting fair, could you tell us what role good communication and listening skills play?
Sure. Well, good communication is important because good communication connects us. And the more we're connected, the easier it is to fight fair. And so I think there's different types of communication. Sometimes we just do what I call talking communication. And, we can get through the day with that. What's our schedules? What we're going to have for dinner? But nothing really important. But we need connecting communication where we're able to talk about our feelings and our thoughts and our ideas and share at that level, because that's the kind of communication that really connects a couple. Listening is a big deal, and we sometimes don't do that very well. Statistics tell us that people can listen 5 times faster than someone can talk. So if Nancy's talking to me and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do when she finishes, and then when she finally finishes, I say, well, that's great, honey, now I'm going to go watch the game, she's not going to feel like I listened to her. If she's we're in discussion and she's making a point, and the whole time I'm thinking about what my response is going to be, because I've got this great retort that's just going to win the argument, and she quits talking and I do that, she's going to think I didn't listen to her. So yeah, listening's important. And so when we're in communication and Nancy's talking to me, I've got to listen to her. I've got to focus on what she's saying. I've got to look at her, and then I've got to be able to respond in a way that she knows that I heard what she said, and give her some feedback on that.
Right. Even with us, I think that when I am explaining something to him, even more than hearing me or being able to say, I heard every word you said, but just caring, showing he cares and understands what I'm saying more than listening even,
You know, sometimes in the counseling room, a couple will say, I said this, and another person said you didn't, and I've got to where I really believe both of them because we don't listen well. And so that really takes place in the counseling room,
Yeah,
too.
well,
Absolutely.
I am totally at fault at that because it's like I am listening way down the road. I'm all the way down the street, and she's still at home base. So that's really something I have to really be mindful and work on. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I
Got to
would.
focus. Got to focus. Absolutely.
Yeah. Dr. Kim, our relationships are heavily built in trust. I mean, trust is really the foundation of relationship. So I'd like for you to share with us how trust can really help us to fight fair.
Well, you're exactly right. Trust is so important, and every couple has that at some point. Sometimes we lose that a little bit. So we want to create an atmosphere for trust to grow. And the first thing I think is really that's important is just warmth, and that's really just the acceptance of the other person, accepting their thoughts and their feelings, the things they say, and really from a Christian perspective, it's really just letting them be who God designed them to be. And the next thing I think would be genuineness. For what we say, that our spouse trusts what we say. They know that we would never lie to them, that we would never deceive them, that they know what we say is really coming from our heart, and we've let them see our heart, and so that genuineness is there. And then the other thing I think is empathy. Someone once said empathy is walking in someone else's shoes without stepping on their toes. And so I think in our marriage, it's me looking at something and say, how does Nancy see this? What does this look like from her perspective? And how is that perspective different from my perspective? And not judging that. And so if I'm able to do that, then I think I'm able to connect with her. I think I'm able to listen better to her. And so we've built an atmosphere and a foundation of trust in our marriage relationship.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And in our marriage, I feel like I'm charged to be the one that creates an environment of trust, and to make sure that I'm leading that aspect. And one thing you said that I really, really identified with was just allowing the person to be who God created them to be.
Absolutely.
And our differences doesn't make us bad or wrong. It just makes us different, and we need to be able to embrace those.
Exactly, and I think so many times we let our differences pull us apart, and the word embrace is what I use all the time. We've got to embrace those differences and know that God's going to use those to grow us and to grow our marriage.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Kim, are there any other ideas you can give us just on fighting fair? Any last thoughts?
One thing that I think, a tool that we use is called Stop, Look, Listen, and it's just really an easy communication tool. Basically, it means stop. When Nancy comes in and she wants to communicate something with me, to talk to me about something, I need to stop whatever I'm doing. So if I'm watching the TV, I need to turn it off. I used to just put it on mute, but I'd go back and forth, and that didn't work out real well. So I got to turn it off.
Yeah.
If I'm at the computer, I need to walk away from the computer. If I'm reading something, I've got to put it down and stop everything else I'm doing. And then look, I need to turn and face her, and so we can make eye contact with each other. So I can really connect, and she knows that I'm really listening to her. And the last part is listen. So it's that active listening again. It's listening to every word that she says, and then being able to respond in the way that she knows that I heard what she said. That, if we do that consistently and we do it well, that will solve a lot of our problems, because a lot of our problems happen because we don't understand each other.
Right, right. I think that's a great information. Just with cell phones and everything else we have in our hands and devices, and sometimes you just want them to look into your eyes and know that they're listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think for me the stop part is key, because I'm trying to multitask, and oftentimes I'm carrying my work into our conversation, so I'm responding to an email while she's talking, and just understanding that she needs my full attention, and that just helps us be able to communicate clearly and really fight fair. So it's really important.
Absolutely, and it's a home run for your marriage. When we communicate and Nancy knows I understood her, I mean, she loves that. And so it's a great tool to use in your marriage.
Dr. Kim, I know you have an activity for us for this week. I think the 5 steps to a solution.
Right. This is something that we use a lot of times in counseling and with couples, and it's really pretty simple. If you've got a problem that you're trying to solve, and this gives you a real good tool to do it. And it's pretty simple. You just pick a time and a date to sit down and talk about it, where you're not going to be distracted. It's identifying the problem. Make sure you're both on the same page with the problem. And then kind of brainstorm solutions, things that you think might work and not work, picking one of those to implement, and then set a time to how you're going to carry that out, and then to evaluate it. And then after you solve that problem, then celebrate your success.
Yes. Sounds fun.
Man.
Well, thank you for all the great information. It was really good.
You bet. It's fun to be here with you guys.
Okay, so Once again, great words of wisdom from Dr. Kim. A plethora of wisdom.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up with some final thoughts on fighting fair, here's what I want you to take away from this. I want you to really strive to take some of the activities and put them into practice. And fighting fair is something that we're going to learn how to do over time. And as I said before, you're going to have plenty of opportunity to put these things into practice.
Yes, to practice your skills of fighting fair. And also there's some talk it over questions in your participant guide. Do go over those. Take the next steps. Do the activity that Dr. Kim talked about, the stop, look, and listen, and also the 5 steps to a solution.
I really like that one.
Yes, there's really good information.
Yeah. Going to put that into practice. And so we're wrapping up Fighting Fair, and here's the deal. When you see us next time, we are going to be talking about the subject of having fun.
Woo-woo!
up in here.
Yes,
So
that's a lot of fun.
we'll see you next time on From This Day Forward.